I have a dream, folks. That's right, I am the Mighty Plantain, and I have a dream that someday Sam Adams will release a 12-pack of variety of beers, all brewed in collaboration with other breweries. Dream no more. We have their Brewing the American Dream variety pack. So we've got 6 beers in here, all brewed in collaboration with other breweries, and I believe, I'd have to read into this, but I believe that all of the breweries featured here somehow benefited from the Boston Beer Company's Brewing the American Dream program. If you don't know what I'm talking about, check it out on the samadams.com website. It's actually a pretty nifty program where they actually put money out there to help other breweries get off the ground or to improve their equipment, etc., etc. It's pretty cool. So what do we got in this pack? We have, of course, the Time Hop Porter, Tea Party Saison, Desert Kaleidoscope IPA, Oats McGoats Stout, ThreeNinety Bock, and of course Sam Adams Boston Lager. So the order we're going to do these in, I believe I'm going to do the Bock first, followed by the Saison. The Saison slightly more sour. The IBUs between the two are the same. We're going to follow that up with Boston Lager, and then we're going to move on to the Stout. Then we're going to do the Porter. Now, I am doing the Porter after the Stout. Normally you wouldn't do that, but the Porter is more hoppy than the Stout. It has higher IBUs, and the hoppiness is specifically mentioned on the label. And then we'll follow it all off with the Desert Kaleidoscope IPA. So that's the lineup I envision. I'll let you know if I think I screwed that up or not. Let me know down in the comments, the email link down there, if you think that's the right order to drink these in, or if you would have lined them up differently. While you're down there, make sure to click on like and share. Like the video, share it on YouTube, share it on Facebook, share it everywhere. The more likes and shares I get, the more attention I get, and I'm all in this for the attention. So, while you're down there, also make sure to subscribe. Click on that subscribe button. You'll get a notification every time I post a new video. With all that being done and out of the way, let's get this started off with the ThreeNinety Bock. This is in collaboration with Roc Brewing, R-O-C. Not a whole lot of information on the label. I'm sure there's more on the descriptive part of the box, but let's just get to the beer. Now that is actually more of a golden color that I'm used to seeing in a bock. There's a slight hint of amber to it, but I'm used to seeing an amber bock or a bock that's actually a darker color than that. Maybe it's just the specific ones I've had the pleasure of drinking, but that is a very clear beer. Now it's got a nice golden amber color, very clear, and fairly effervescent. There's a lot of bubbles coming up through that. That is just a good looking beer. It was a very nice looking beer. I anticipate it being a bit light and crisp, just based on the looks alone. I mean, this is beautiful. Hint of bitterness in the aroma. I don't know, maybe some roasted notes. Roasted, maybe a little roasted, somewhat grainy. Slightly grainy and bitter with a hint of roastiness. It's got a nice light mouthfeel. It's pretty crisp. It's got a really toasty character up front. And it's fading to a really toasty aftertaste. That's all I'm getting is almost like the roasted grain flavor from it. That seems to be the overpowering flavor there. Maybe some what I'm picking up on in the finish are some earthy notes from the hops. That's entirely possible. Toffee and caramel flavors, and a slightly sweet yet dry finish. I am getting the dryness. I'm not really picking up on any of the sweetness that they mentioned, though. But yeah, really roasty, a bit toasted, smoky and earthy. Not bad. I'm going to hit this with a 3.5 out of 5. Bear in mind, on a scale of 1 to 5, a 2.5 is average, so this is a fairly above average beer. I'm really enjoying it. It's going to go down pretty smooth and easy. Then I'm going to move on to the next one. Alright, so beer number 2 is the Tea Party Saison. It's in collaboration with Woods Beer. And it says here we've got an ale brewed with tea, coriander, and grains of paradise. Now, I've had some beers brewed with coriander before, and the tea thing seems to be getting more and more popular. More and more brewers are collaborating with tea companies to brew beers with tea. So far, it's worked out pretty good as far as I'm concerned. We already had some beers that tried to mimic the taste of a brewed tea, either by using some of the classic ingredients or actual tea leaves, but lately actually brewing it with the tea itself has really caught on. So it's a little bit more cloudy than the last one. Less effervescent in terms of the number of bubbles coming up, but got a better head on it. It's got a bit of almost a muddy yellow color. I always say muddy because of the cloudiness to it. It reminds me of a nice thin clay mud. So a bit of a muddy yellow, cloudy beer, slightly effervescent. Getting just a hint of that coriander. Some of the spiciness from the grains of paradise. And when I say spicy, I don't mean a hot spicy, I mean a spicy aroma. And definitely some of that brewed tea aroma, that slightly bitter, tannin-filled brewed tea aroma. Maybe a little citrusy too. It's definitely a complex head on this one, or a complex bouquet from it. Now I got to admit I'm a little hesitant here because saisons go one way or another for me, and I think it has to do with the fact that it's similar to farmhouse styles or lambics. Anything that uses a wild yeast, I pick up on a certain amount of sourness from those wild yeast strains, and it's about 50-50. Some newer saisons, farmhouse styles, lambics, etc. Some of the newer wild yeast beers don't. They sit well with me. Some of the older styles don't, and I don't know. It's hit or miss. But enough about that. Let's drink it. Definitely a great aroma. There's just a slight hint of that saison sourness in the finish. But before you get there, you got a nice blend of spices, fading to that bitter, and it doesn't mention citrus or lemon, but I'm getting a lemony, like a nice brewed lemon tea flavor there in the middle, and that's primarily, you're basically getting a mouthful of lemon tea. A nice spiciness up front, mouthful of a light lemon tea. It's very pleasant, and then it fades to a slight hint of that saison sourness, but not bad. It's not negative or off-putting. It's very interesting the way they're flowing together. I'm just taking a quick peek here. So it's a classic Belgian ale brewed with yerba mate, or yerba mate, or however you pronounce it, and blended with Samuel Adams. Miller. Oh, they used the Cosmic Mother Funk. Huh. For a wild, hazy, and fruity brew. Huh. With a hint of spice. No mention of lemon in the tea blend, so that's interesting. What I find really interesting is they used the Grandmother Funk, is the Sam Adams beer that they blended in here. I haven't been able to get a hold of a bottle of the Cosmic Mother Funk lately yet, and from all accounts, it is really good. I believe it's part of the Barrel Room collection because it's a set of barrel-aged beers that were blended to achieve that particular flavor. And I think it was a limited release, but I haven't seen a bottle of Cosmic Mother Funk up here. So it's interesting that the first time I'm trying it is actually in a collaboration brew. And this one's really good. But there's that yerba mate or yerba mate. There's a particular type of tea that seems to be gaining popularity among tea lovers, I guess. I'm also seeing it because it popped up in Shipyard Brewing's Fireberry in collaboration with Fiesta Tea, which was actually a really good beer as well. So this one's interesting. It's smooth, got a nice flavor. It's very complex. That tea's coming out really well. It's interesting enough that I need to give this one a 4 out of 5. I'm not quite ready to say it's blowing me away or making me go wow and bump it up further, but definitely a solid 4 out of 5. Really highly above average beer. I'm really enjoying this one. Mostly for its uniqueness, but that's quite good. So I'm going to finish this one up, and we're going to move on to beer number 3. Alright, so beer 3, Sam Adams Boston Lager in collaboration with nobody. This is a Boston Beer Company original. Jim Cook. Sam, yeah, way to go there. Jim Cook, original family recipe. Boston Lager. If you've seen any of my Sam Adams variety pack videos before, you know what's happening here. There are no mysteries. This beer, while not having anything in particular that stands out, no wow, no surprising flavors, nothing really I guess I can't say nothing unique, but nothing really outstanding in particular, except for the fact that this is a perfectly balanced and blended beer. Look at that lovely, lovely brown color, clear, not cloudy, slightly effervescent. Great aroma off of that. It's grainy, it's hoppy, it just has a lot of character. Nice medium mouthfeel, a great malt backbone with toasty caramel, slightly sweet notes that finishes up with a very complex hoppy bitterness. You know, there's hints of citrus and pine in there. There's hints of earthy notes. And there's a little touch of floral. Just something about the hop blend. It's just enough to make it nice and hoppy compared to most of your regular American beers, but not overly hoppy and just perfectly well blended with the other ingredients. As always for me, Sam Adams Boston Lager, a perfect 5 out of 5. A perfectly balanced beer. I love it. I use it as a standard to measure a lot of beers against. And again, there's nothing in particular that stands out about it except for how well put together this beer is. I've got a couple of others that I enjoy to this point, this extent, such as local Maine brewery, Bigelow Brewing's Lucky. I keep doing that because Stone Brewing makes Lucky Bastard Ale, but their Lying Bastard Ale Stone, to bring up them again, is their Arrogant Bastard Ale. Just nothing in particular about it that stands out, just how perfectly well balanced and blended those beers are. All perfect 5 out of 5 for me. And again, Sam Adams Boston Water, same reason. Same thing. Perfect 5 out of 5. So, I'm going to finish this up and we're going to move on to the next beer. Alright, beer number 4. Oats McGoats. Honestly, all I can think of is that, I think it was a Sprint ad with Malcolm McDowell and James Earl Jones reading text messages from teenage girls. Oats McGoats. Oats McGoats. It's a stout in collaboration with Brewery Rickoli. Not a lot more information on here. I would guess by the name that it's actually an oatmeal stout, or at least an oat-based stout. Like a good stout. Nothing wrong with that. Ooh, that's nice and dark. A little bit of brownishness to it, but not too much. Nice brown head rather than the light gray or white head that we see from some heavier stouts or some different stouts. I'm thinking this is definitely an oatmeal stout, or at least an oat-based. That is nice and dark. Ooh, pardon, but not completely black. It's still somewhat brown. Nice brown head. A little bit of light coming through, making this look like a syrupy brown around the edges of the glass where it's a little thinner. Maybe a little bit of sweetness coming through. Just a tad of sweetness. It's nice medium heavy mouthfeel. On the lighter end of mouthfeel for a stout. Coffee coming through. Coffee and a lot of roasted notes. A very toasty stout with a hint of coffee. Maybe some slight hoppy bitterness in the finish. Interesting. Like I said, it's got a medium heavy mouthfeel, but it's got some body to it. Going down very smooth, though, all things considered. I'm just picking up on some coffee and some roasted notes. Maybe a little bit of hoppy bitterness in the finish. Again, I think I repeated myself there, but there's nothing that's really standing out from other slightly coffee tinged stouts for me. It's certainly a well put together beer and very delicious, easy to drink, but I gotta hit this with a 3 out of 5. It's not impressing me as much as some of the others. Again, a 1 to 5 scale, a 2.5 is average, so this is a slightly above average beer. There's just nothing about it that's really distinguishing it from other slightly coffee tinged oat-based stouts. Yeah. But again, a really good beer, slightly above average. It's just not standing out for me. But I am obviously really enjoying drinking it, and it is delicious. So there we go, 3 out of 5. I'm going to finish this one up and move on to the next beer. Okay, so we are up to beer number 5. This is the Time Hop Porter in collaboration with ChuckAlek Independent Brewers. Now I know what you're thinking. Porter after a stout? Not usually a good idea. Usually you'd put the porter in front of the stout because the stout tends to be a heavier beer. But here's the thing. They say time hop. Hop is in the name. So that cued me to look at the IBUs, and at 43 IBUs, and I believe the Oats McGoats came in at 35. 35. It tells me, without even looking at the description on the box, this is a hopped porter. And the box does mention in the description that the porter is hopped. So, a porter with some hoppiness belongs behind a stout, which is why the IPA is at the very end. Normally you would drink your beers light to dark, and porters tend to be lighter than the darker stouts. But when it comes to IBUs, International Bitterness Units, and hoppiness, you want to put the higher IBU beers at the end, because nothing will wreck your palate faster than a high IBU IPA if you're drinking anything else ahead of time. And a lot of places still get this wrong. You can go to a microbrewery, craft brewery, or even just a bar that serves micro and craft brews. You'll know if the server slash bartender slash owner knows their shit really quick if they put the IPA at the head of the lineup, because it's a lighter looking beer. So think about it, folks. Those IPAs have higher IBUs, and nothing wrecks your palate faster than the high IBU bitter hoppy flavors of a good IPA. So, lesson over. Hopefully you know how to identify somebody who knows their shit versus somebody who doesn't. And if you disagree with me, hit me up in the comments in the email link down below. Let me know why. Why you think I'm wrong about the IBUs and the hoppy beers belonging behind the heavier, darker beers. Love to discuss it with you, because you know what? That's my opinion. And I've always maintained on this channel that my opinion is simply that. Everybody's got an opinion. Just like any of the tastes I've picked up on the beers and any of the ratings I have, I'm more than happy to discuss any time you agree with me or disagree with me. Because we're talking about beers. It's all about individual tastes. So, enough preaching. I'm going to get off my soapbox there. Actually, I think this might be a little bit, no, it's not quite darker than that stout. It's still lighter than the stout in color and probably in mouthfeel. It's actually a little bit more effervescent, or my pour technique was just better because I got a better head on this one. But down here, this is the tell, because it's a very dark brown beer, but down where the light's actually coming through, it is slightly lighter. It's got a caramel color to it, whereas that stout tended towards the darker end of the spectrum where a little bit of light was coming through. So this porter is actually a little bit, just slightly lighter than that stout, the Oats McGoats stout. But right there in the aroma, I'm getting hoppy bitterness and citrus and pine right up front. So definitely a way more hoppy beer than that stout, because I wasn't getting any sort of hoppy bitterness off of that stout. It's got a nice medium mouthfeel, and it does hit you up front with that hop character. Citrus and pine fading to some really nice roasted malt notes. And that's actually pretty cool. It's like I'm getting a mouthful of hops, citrus and pine, and then really quickly in the middle there, it fades to those nice roasty notes that you're used to from a nice porter. So hops up front, so almost like an IPA up front with a distinct porter characteristic afterwards. In the finish, it's almost nutty. Almost nutty. Maybe some Not quite chocolatey notes, but almost. I can fool myself into thinking I'm picking up chocolate. You know what? I probably am picking up chocolatey notes. That's pretty interesting. I'm actually really liking this. Oh, pardon. Taking a typically dark beer and hopping it up doesn't always work out. Well, it's definitely more gassy than I expected. But right there, case in point. But as I was saying, taking a darker beer like a porter or a stout and hopping it up doesn't always work out good, but in this particular case, it has. Ooh. It was a very, very interesting and unique character to this beer. It's not quite wowing me, but it is unexpected. I gotta bump this up to a 4.5 out of 5. Not bump it up, but I've got to rate this at a 4. I was debating there whether it was a 4 or a 5, or I was leaning more towards the 4, but the fact that it's impressing me so much makes me think I got to hit this with a 4.5 out of 5. I'm not quite ready to go wow and be really impressed and hit it with the full 5, but it is just shy, is just lacking something distinct, because I've had some hoppy porters and some hoppy stouts before, or even a black IPA, that work out to be pretty similar. So again, it's not quite blowing me away, but it's almost there. It just lacks something unique about the beer, but it's really, really different, really unique, and really different and really distinct, not unique. Because like I said, I've experienced similar tastes before. It's not quite standing out. I keep trying to justify not bumping this up to a 5, and the fact of the matter is I've got it as solid 4.5 out of 5. I'm not ready to call it a 5 out of 5. It's good. It's really good, and it's borderline spectacular, but it's not quite there yet. But definitely really good beer. I'm enjoying this a little bit too much. I'm going to finish this up probably quicker than I should, and I'm going to move on to the 6th and final beer in this pack. Alright folks, we are finishing off this variety pack with Desert Kaleidoscope IPA. This is done in collaboration with Bosque Brewing Company. Highest IBUs by far out of this pack, which means this IPA definitely belongs at the end. But again, if you disagree with me, hit me up in the comments, the email link down below. Let me know if you think this should have been lined up differently. Love to discuss it with you one way or the other. Ooh, look at that. That is a nice golden colored IPA. Maybe not quite golden, maybe more on the bronze or brass or even a copper. I'd say it's more of a copperish hue. I'd go with copper. Orangish copper. It's a very nice looking IPA. Slightly effervescent. There's not a lot of bubbles coming up there. Didn't get a very good head on it. Quite clear, not cloudy at all. That's interesting. I'm actually getting an overall hoppy bitterness. Hence a citrus and pine. It actually fades to a floral aroma. Now, floral, not something I pick up on in hops all that often. Usually, for me personally, I'm getting more citrus and pine hop aromas than anything else. Those are the two hop characteristics that I seem to pick up on the most, followed by floral and earthy and well, some of the others like dank. don't get a lot of floral up front. But this one is overwhelmingly floral. And that's kind of a hit or miss thing. It can be cloyingly hoppy when I pick up on floral up front, or it can be good and well balanced. But again, floral, something I've been noticing more and more often coming to the forefront for me, but not something I pick up on a lot. Although I do think I pick up on floral notes more than I do the earthy notes. That was up front, very citrus and pine. But the more I smell it, the more I'm picking up on the floral. Interesting. That taste is like a hop explosion. It's a nice medium mouthfeel. But then comes in that highly floral hop flavor, followed by some earthy notes with citrus and pine. It's very complex. Way more bitter than I would have expected from a 70 IBU beer. Again, it's one of those ones that's on the very cusp of being cloying, but doesn't quite get cloyingly hoppy. The more I talk, the more I'm getting after effects and notes of citrus rolling off my tongue. So in the finish and the aftertaste, I'm getting more citrus. The floral and the citrus are blending together in the next time I take a good whiff of it. So I'm getting like this orange blossom aroma. In that particular sip, I'm getting earthy notes followed up by some pine. Yeah, wow. It's a really well-rounded IPA, and I'm getting all of those different hop characteristics, and they're kind of switching places on my palate, and this beer is evolving as I drink it. I'm getting a slightly different flavor profile every time I taste it from the hops. Overall, it's got a nice solid malt backbone to it, but no particular characteristics of the malt blend that are sticking out. It's mostly just there to anchor the hops. Pardon. It's got a very robust and complex hop characteristic with a nice solid malt backbone. Honestly, based on the fact that it is evolving as I taste it, and every sip seems to be a different set of flavor profiles coming forward from the hops, I gotta hit this with a full 5 out of 5. It's very much impressing me. Gotta go 5 out of 5. So that's the entire variety pack, all 6 beers. As I said on the top of the video, hit me up down in the comments, the email link down below. I'd like to hear from you, whether you agree or disagree with my assessment on any of these beers, whether you agree or disagree on my lineup, whether I drank these in the right order or not. Just like to discuss the beers with you in general. And again, like, share, subscribe. Until next time, folks, thanks for tuning in, and cheers. Now, a little while back, we did a bit of a comparison with the Not Your Father's Hard Root Beer review.
Thanks for having me.
Well, thanks for the beer, man. So, highly recommended by you. The Extreme Beer Fest this weekend. We'll be able to get a hold of, I believe it's the American